Good afternoon, sir. Would you tell us your name and where you live?
Charles Burns, Dothan, Alabama.
How are you employed, sir?
I didn't hear you.
How are you employed?
Do electrical plumbing. Self-employed.
Do you know Amanda Lewis?
Yes.
How do you know her, sir?
I was married to her mother
How many years?
a little over 3.5 years.
That be Brenda Burns?
Yes.
Is Amanda Lewis in the courtroom, sir?
Yes.
Would you point her out for the jury and for the court? I'd like the record to reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
You may proceed.
Do you know Andrew Jordan Hutto or AJ Hutto?
Yes.
How do you know him, sir?
He was Amanda's son, Brenda's grandson.
Did he ever live with you and Miss Burns?
No, stay a weekend once in a while.
What about Adrianna Hutto? Did you know her?
Yes.
How did you know her?
Brenda's granddaughter, AJ's sister.
I would like for you to think back to the afternoon of August the 8th of last year. How did you find out that Adrianna had drowned in a swimming pool, sir?
I was on my way home from work and Brenda called me from her job, told me, and I went over to her.
What did you do as a result of that call?
I went over to the house. What happened?
Did you meet your wife there at the scene, Miss Burns there at the scene?
Later, yeah,
What did you observe when you got there that day, sir?
just, you know, sheriff department, everything there, because it's
Still there when you got Was Alan Carnley there when you got there?
yes.
What was he doing, if you recall, sir?
He was out in the yard with Amanda.
Amanda was still there?
Yes.
What was she doing, sir?
Standing there at somebody's pickup. I don't know who it was.
And what, if anything, was she doing, sir? What, if anything, was she doing, sir?
Nothing I remember, because she wasn't, I didn't talk to her. I just seen her over there. And she was turned towards the truck, so I didn't see her or talk to her.
So you didn't have a chance to speak with her or gauge her emotions or anything?
No.
Were arrangements made for her to be able to go down to the hospital in Bay County to be with Adrianna?
Yes, somebody took her down there. I don't know who it was, some other church department or somebody.
As a result of that, did you or your wife make arrangements to take care of AJ Hutto that day?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that, sir.
I spoke with the sheriff, and he told me I could take him. And I told him to, you know, take him to the house, and I took him to the house.
He rode with you.
Right.
What does he refer to you as, sir?
Paul Chuck.
Paul Chuck. And his grandmother, what does he call her?
Granny.
On the way to the house, did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
All right. Now, after you got home, as a result of that conversation, what did you do?
I talked with his grandmother, Brenda, and then we called the sheriff department and brought him down here.
When you got him to the sheriff's department, I believe he was interviewed that day.
Yes.
Did you sit in on that interview?
Yes.
Was his grandmother in for that interview, sir?
She came in when it started and she left
Why did she leave?
because she was upset.
Okay, all right. So you were there while the officers were interviewing him?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't want you to tell us what was said, but was AJ alert that day?
Yes.
Was he able to answer questions, sir?
Yes.
After the interview was over with, what did you do?
We went to the hospital in Panama City.
When you got down to the hospital, did you find out whether or not Adrianna had survived? Or when did you find
Yes,
that out?
that's what we went down there for. She hadn't.
Did you meet with Amanda that night? Did you and your wife meet with her? Or did
Yes.
you see her, sir?
No, just saw her.
Okay. What was her demeanor, if you recall, sir?
It was just Amanda. I mean,
For us, that for some people in here, most people in here may not know her. What do you mean by that, sir?
probably like she is now.
Let me back up just a moment. Adriana, how long had you known Adriana? You'd been in the family 3 years or so, is that right?
I know her right after she was born. We went to the same church together.
Okay. Was Adriana afraid of water?
Absolutely.
You knew that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen her around water before, sir?
Just when she'd go take a bath, Brenda would give her a bath when she was at our house. I never known her been in a pool or nothing.
So her grandmother knew that she was afraid of water?
Right.
Did everybody in the family knew of this fear that she had of water?
Immediate family, as far as I know, all knew.
Thank you. No further questions for this.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Burns, did you see Adriana outside a bathtub? And did you see her at the beach? Did you see her at a lake? Or did you see her in a swimming pool?
Never.
Never. So, from what you saw, she didn't like to take a bath.
Well, I mean, periodically I would run her water, for Brenda, and then I'd give AJ a bath, and then she'd go in there to give Adriana a bath.
Right.
I never was in there when she'd give her a bath.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to pin down that your observations of Adriana really are strictly tied to taking baths, right? And apparently she didn't like to take a bath. Is that accurate?
Yeah, she'd just say there was too much water in her usually.
Okay.
She wouldn't get in.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bassett?
No further questions. May you please.
Okay, Mr. Burns, you may step down, sir.
Brenda Burns.
Brenda Burns, 370 Thorn Road, Hartford, Alabama.
Are you employed anywhere at this time, Ms. Burns?
Yes, I work with A.W. Herndon Oil Company out of Abbeville, Alabama.
Amanda Lewis. How do you know her, ma'am?
She's my daughter.
How many children do you have?
2.
Adriana Hutto. How did you know her?
She was my granddaughter.
Did you help raise Adriana, ma'am?
Yes, I did.
Did she live the first few months of her life with you?
Yes, sir.
How did that come to be, ma'am?
Amanda lived with me at the time, and she joined the National Guard. And shortly after she joined the National Guard, she found out she was pregnant. So they couldn't send her off to boot camp. And after she went through her 6 weeks, they sent her to boot camp, and I kept Adriana.
You kept Adriana while she was an infant there, while Amanda went off to boot camp.
Yes.
How long was she gone to boot camp, Ms. Burns?
2 or 3 months. She injured her leg while she was there, and she had to stay till they could discharge her.
So she was unable to finish her assignment there and got discharged from the National Guard.
Right.
When she came back, she was living with you,
Yes, sir.
and Adriana continued to live with you.
Yes, sir.
How long, can you give us an idea how long Amanda lived with you, ma'am, after Adriana was born?
She lived with me even after she married, and I believe Adriana was probably about 3.5 years old when they moved.
So during that period of time, then AJ would have been born and was living with you also?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you call him, AJ, or do you call him Andrew?
I call him Boo.
Boo? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you continue to have contact with Boo and Adriana. Did you call her Adriana, or what did you call her, ma'am?
She was my pumpkin.
Pumpkin, okay. Did you continue to have contact with Boo and Pumpkin after they moved out?
Yes, sir.
Now let me ask you this, ma'am. How did Adriana like the water?
She didn't like the water.
Did she have a fear of water?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain what you mean when you say she had a fear of water?
Just when you would give her a bath, she didn't want much water in the tub, and she didn't want you washing her hair. She didn't want her head under the water. I mean, you know, just to wash her hair. She just cried.
Ever since she was an infant?
No, sir. I think it first started after they moved out.
But you noticed that she didn't like her head under the water. Now, when you washed her hair, you gave her baths. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you washed her hair, how would you have to wash this child's hair?
Mainly just, most of the time, just take a cup and rinse her hair, or wet her hair, and then wash it and rinse it. I always give her a washcloth to put over her face.
What about bath water? Did she like taking tub baths, or did she not like a lot of water, or did she rather take a shower? You tell us, ma'am.
If she took a bath, she didn't want very much water.
What do you mean, very much?
Just barely. She would always say, "That's enough, Granny."
All right. Are you talking about when you put your fingers up like that, a couple of inches, ma'am? Okay.
Yes.
Did she prefer to take a shower instead of taking water? I mean, taking a tub bath?
She liked that a little bit better, yes.
Did you ever have an opportunity to see her around water other than just bath water? And I'm talking about either around a swimming pool or a lake or the beach or something like that, ma'am.
Yes, sir. We would take them to the beach. And she would get right at the edge, but she wouldn't get in the water. She would run back.
She didn't like to get in the water even on those occasions?
No, sir.
How did you... Did Adriana potty train, ma'am?
She was potty trained before they moved out of the house with us. And then after they moved up there, Adriana just had little problems.
She regressed.
She did.
She got where she would urinate on herself.
Yes, sir.
And that got to be a pretty common thing for her, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
Even after she got into school?
Yes, sir.
Right up until she died on August the 8th.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that was just a common problem that you knew, and people in the family, the immediate family knew that this was a problem with her.
Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, did she have any behavioral problems? And by that I mean, did you know that she had ever been diagnosed with ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder? Did you know that, Ms. Burns?
I know. I believe so. I know that Amanda told me that they had diagnosed her as being bipolar.
Okay. All right. Was she a behavioral problem, ma'am?
She was headstrong.
Okay.
You know.
Had you had a chance to see her after she had been placed on medication?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that seem to help?
It did.
Can you give us an idea of what your relationship was with your daughter, Amanda, back in the summer of 2007? And I'm talking about July, August time period, ma'am.
It was a little bit strained because we didn't always agree.
Okay.
But we still talked once or twice, sometimes 3 times a week. You know,
Either in person or on the phone?
Mostly on the phone, but she would come by where I was working and see me.
Okay. Did she tell you, well, let me back up from there. Did she tell you, did you have a conversation with her a week or so before August the 8th about some toys?
Yes, sir. She called me at work and told me that she had done something that I probably wasn't going to like. And I asked her what it was, and she told me that she had thrown away all of their toys because she couldn't get them to pick them up, and she was tired of, trying to keep their room clean.
And she had thrown the toys away?
That's what she told me, yes, sir.
Now, you and Mr. Burns had given them a lot of the toys the preceding Christmas, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How did you react when she told you that?
Well, she knew I didn't like it.
How did you learn that Adriana had drowned on August the 8th?
I was at work, and I got a call from Holmes County Sheriff's Department, Harry Hamlin.
Did you go over there to the Carnley home, ma'am?
I did.
Was your daughter there when you got there?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any interaction with her on that occasion?
Well, I had went up to her and asked her what had happened, and they were in the process of leaving to go to Panama City, so she left, and I didn't get to say much to her.
Did you have a chance to observe her demeanor or anything at that time?
She was just stunned.
I understand that AJ, y'all made arrangements for AJ to go home with you and your husband at the time, Paul Chuck.
Yes, sir.
Later, when he got there with AJ, y'all had a conversation, and then where did you take AJ?
Back to the Sheriff's Department.
After the Sheriff's, and I understand you sat in on part of that interview at the Sheriff's Department.
I did.
Okay. Was AJ upset during that interview?
No, sir, he didn't seem to be.
Was he alert or sleepy, ma'am?
No, sir. He was alert.
After he got through with that interview, what happened? What did you and Mr. Burns and AJ do?
We left and went to Panama City to the hospital.
When you arrived at the hospital, is that when you found out that Adriana had not survived? Or did you know before you got there?
I knew before.
Did you have any contact with your daughter that night, ma'am?
We didn't talk. We were both there, but we didn't talk.
Did you have an opportunity to observe her demeanor then, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you describe that for the jury, please?
She was just kind of numb and cold, I guess.
Prior to August of last year, did you have one or more conversations with your daughter about whether or not she felt she had bonded with Adriana when she was a child, when she was an infant?
Yes, sir. This was right after she started seeing the psychologist or the doctor that she was seeing. She told me that she didn't feel like they had had a chance to bond because she was gone when Adriana was so small.
And you're talking about when Adriana was seeing the psychologist?
Yes, sir.
And did she indicate to you, or from your observations, ma'am, of her in your presence and your conversations with her, did she seem to have, your daughter seemed to have a short temper with Adriana?
Objection, character evidence at this point.
Objection's over.
You may answer the question.
Yes, sir. She did have a short temper with her at times.
How about AJ? Did she have a short temper with AJ?
Not as much.
If I could have just one. Thank you, Ms. Burns. Mr. Smith may have some questions. Just one.
Ms. Burns, thank you. You may step